Hi, this is Tom Tavner. This is Cherry Evacuation Refresher Review Part 2. We had to split this up into two videos due to limitations with uploading to YouTube. So we're going to pick up where we left off in the last video, and we're going to look at some of our footage from last year. I'm going to take you to the momentum chair, and we've got something that kind of tickled a few patrollers over there last year, and that was the sighting of Mary Poppins. So there you go, Pat, you're up in the air. The important thing about this is that obviously if you see she is off the ground, she's not able to take the rope and tuck it underneath her buttocks to create some friction, because another patroller is off here on the side actually helping with the descent. He's controlling the speed of the rope, as far as just it sliding through his hand. So if you do find yourself in this situation, first of all, the ideal situation would be to get over there and get a second anchor. So even though this patroller was helping over here on the side and he was helping to control the descent, even if Pat is up in the air like that, she can still fully control the descent herself by just taking that rope and putting it under her buttocks and making some friction. Okay, that second patroller would be better utilized to come over here and be a second anchor, which we'll see here in a second. Right there, that's the shot that I'm going to blow up, Pat, and give to you for Christmas this year. But anyway, so it is a comical time. I mean, everybody's laughing. There's snot bubbles coming out of people's noses right now over the momentum chair, but it is a serious situation, and we're having a good time and we're getting to see each other after not seeing each other for a while throughout the season. But if that does happen at this year's evac, get a second anchor. I mean, identify that from the very beginning. It definitely is a safety issue, and we don't want anybody to get hurt. So if you have a lighter patroller, because we are going to be rotating out patrollers on the hill, identify that from the beginning and get a second anchor there. So let's jump back in the video here for a second, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to the sit ski hookup. Okay, so what we have here is we have a patroller in one of the sit skis. The purple webbing is actually the webbing that you're going to find attached to the sit ski. As you can see, there's 3 points of contact with that sit ski. There is webbing located in the back right and the back left of the sit ski, and that's these purple webbing that you see coming over the shoulders. Then there's a third webbing that's going to be attached in between the legs, probably in the shin, ankle area. Okay, this webbing will already be installed on any sit ski should be on any sit ski that is going up the lifts at Mad River. This red webbing, just disregard that. I mean, this is an extra safety measure that Jeb, I believe, hooked that up for us just for some safety, because we weren't sure about the integrity of some of these webbing on the sit skis. This is a sit ski that we got from over at stored in the Mad River Mountain storage area. So you're not going to see that red webbing. What you're going to see in real life is this purple webbing. Okay, so again, 2 over each shoulder, 1 in between the legs. Typically they're going to have their own carabiner as well. Here's a really good shot. They should be equipped. The sit ski or adaptive skier should understand how to attach the webbing to our safety rope, and we'll see that in just a second. But we're going to have 3 points of contact. They're going to have their own carabiner. Not sure if those carabiners are locking carabiners. I would say if in a real life situation, the adaptive skier is going to have a guide with them, and that guide can use our locking carabiner in place of their carabiner. Okay, it'd probably be more safer to use our carabiners that are locking. So let's now jump to a sit ski evacuation. We don't have a whole lot of good footage here. I think the battery actually failed on us in the middle of that descent, but at least you can see some shots of the patrollers pulling up the load line with our locking carabiner. Whoops. Oh, here we go. Just had to give it a second. So we're going to see they're actually pulling up the load line with our locking carabiner attached to it. They don't pull up the rescue chair, because all we're doing is we're attaching our locking carabiner to the sit ski's webbing. So now the guide is going to help the adaptive skier hook it up to his webbing. You know, the webbing, we want to remind them that the webbing is to go over, the back two webbing is to go over their shoulders. The webbing in between their legs, of course, is going to be in front of them. Make sure that all 3 points of contact are attached. And as I said, unfortunately, that's about all we have for the sit ski evac. Hopefully we get some better footage of that this year. So now let's go back to the momentum chair, and I want to show you something that has to do with using a tag line to get a skier out of harm's way. In the momentum, we have the Gulley. It's very lots of rocks. You know, sometimes there's water that's going down there from the melting snow. So there might be an instance where we had to pull that skier out of harm's way, and that's what this downhill ski team is set up to do. They've got a tag line. That orange line is their tag line, and they're going to be pulling the skier downhill. So we're going to see what the problem is with that. Okay, so now Roger's being lowered down from the momentum. The black rope, see the angle that it's already starting to create by pulling on that tag line? You're going to see even a more extreme angle here in a second. So again, the orange line is the tag line. They're now engaging that tag line. They're pulling that skier downhill. Okay, so I know it's hard to see the load line. It's kind of tucked away in the trees. You can see it up here a little bit coming through the branches. Notice that angle. What that angle is doing is that it is putting pressure on the front of the chair, and it's actually tipping the chair back downhill. Okay, so if you can take your right hand and keep your fingers together and point your thumb out, okay, and make like a backwards L, that's your chair. The rope is putting pressure on the front of your thumb, and it's pushing your thumb to the right and upwards. So it's actually, you can see as that happens, it's tipping the chair back, and of course the concern is that patrollers could, or riders could, fall out of the chair. So we'll see even a higher angle here in a second. Notice this black rope, look at that angle. It's not straight up and down. It's at a degree that I can't think of right now, probably 75%, maybe 65% degree. Okay, look at how extreme it's getting now. Let's try to pause that. Okay, now you got a good view of that rope, that load line. See that extreme angle that is being produced by them engaging the pull line and pulling him downhill. What's happening is the patrollers in the chair are recognizing that, and they're saying, hey, this is tipping back, this is tipping back, and they're having to put their arms around the side of the chair, the frame of the chair, and the back of the chair. So if that's not clear, and if you don't understand the point of this footage right here, talk to Brenda Patterson. She was in the chair, and she noticed the full force of the tipping action. Now look at this angle now. It's even more extreme as he gets downhill. Now you're probably at maybe a 55, maybe a 50% angle. Maybe that's too much, but you get what I'm saying. I mean, the angle is extreme, and it's tipping that chair, especially right down to the point where Roger's about to sit down. It's a pretty aggressive angle right there that's pulling on the back of the chair. Okay, so let's go back in this video a little bit, and let's show the use of the tag line where you're actually pulling that rider uphill as opposed to downhill. Okay, so now again, one thing I want to point out right here is it could be because of the position that Pat put her hands to grab on the webbing. Maybe she was off to one side more than the other. But notice how Laura is, her hips are turned downhill a little bit. When we looked at Lori Logan earlier in this video review, her hips were pointed uphill. She was kind of cocked to the side. Well, Laura McCabe here is doing the same thing, but this time her hips are aimed downhill. So, you know, it might be something that we don't recognize that we're doing until we actually see video. Ideally, you want to have your knees bent, both your feet positioned, you know, aiming towards the chair and kind of equal, you know, kind of like a golf swing, where you take that when you're practicing your golf swing, you take a club and you put it down on the ground and you have both your toes touching that golf club that's on the ground, you know, so that they're even with each other. That's how you want to be when you're evacuating somebody from the chair. Leaning back into the slope, having your hips open or square to the load that you're descending. Okay, still a very good, very controlled, smooth descent. No issues there. Just trying to polish us a little bit, and if we keep our hips square to that load, I think we're going to be in a more ideal situation. Now you see that bottom rope is the tag line, and Jim Vickroy, he's got the orange rope. He's going to pull the patroller uphill. And what you're going to find in this scenario with pulling him uphill, what's happening is the load line is going to be pulled in front of the chair. It's never going to touch the chair as that tag line is engaged and pressure is pulled to pull that load uphill. We'll see that, and I'll explain that one more time here when we get some footage back up of the chair again. Okay, so here's a good example. You see the black rope here. That is the actual load line. It's going through the figure 8 up here, going down, attaching to the rescue chair. The orange line, or this bottom rope here, that's the tag line. Once this rider gets down to about a level plane of where Jim Vickroy is, then Jim's going to start pulling that tag line to get that rider out of harm's way, which is right down here immediately below the chairlift chair. As he pulls that, that's going to pull the rider in the rescue chair and the load line uphill. Okay, so it's going to pull it away from the chairlift chair right here. So by doing it uphill, we have to exert some more well, there's some more strength that needs to be involved in that because you're working against gravity. But by doing it that way, you're keeping the load line away from the chairlift chair, so it's never rubbing on the front of the seat here and tipping it back, as was the case when we were pulling the tag line downhill. Another acceptable position could be to the side. Maybe if you're to the side, maybe like over here, you know, kind of in between Jim Vickroy and Laura McCabe, then you've got a little bit less gravity you're working against, but you're still going to be slightly uphill from the chair on the chairlift, and therefore when you're engaging that tag line, you're not going to be pulling the load line up against the chair. Okay, so now here it is. You see, we've got an angle here. You can't tell it out just great with this frame, but we do have an angle here. It's following pretty much the same angle as the load line right here. Jim's actually engaged the tag line. It's behind the lift tower here, and by pulling uphill, he's keeping that load line away from the chair, not creating that tipping action. So it does take an extra patroller, maybe even an extra 2 patrollers in the Gulley, the momentum chair, in order to operate that tag line. You know, you still have got your belayer, you've got your anchor, you've got your person that's engaged with the tag line, you've got your talker who is going to, you know, receive that load as it comes down to the ground and make their skis, turn them so their skis are perpendicular to the fall line. You might need a second here in the tag line, depending on how much pressure it's going to take to pull that rider out of harm's way, which is directly below the chairlift chair. Alright, so this has been Chair Evac Refresher Video Part 2. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope that we can do a little bit better quality and more professional video in the future, but purpose of this video, Part 1 and Part 2, was kind of a bridge for us to use video review for one of the hill freshers in the future.